That's what I do for a living. My degree is in oceanography from the Scripps Institution, which is at UCSD. And I've worked my whole career with investigators from Cal. So where's Jay? I went to get some water. Congratulations to you two. Good luck. Okay. So anyway, as a biology instructor, the main question that I answer day after day is, how did I get here? And that involves an exciting story about romance and sex and the fusion of sperm and egg. And it's a lot of fun. But that's not what I'm going to talk about today. It's too damn hot for that. I want to talk about how did here get here? The geology of California, and particularly I want to talk about Clear Lake. And I want to mention two books that I think you would enjoy reading if you're interested in really, really old history. And the first one is Alton Hindman's Roadside Geology of Northern and Central California. This is something you can use if you have a passenger, and they can read to you as you travel along the roads in Northern California, and it points out geological features. Don't do this on your own, especially if you're texting. So just check this out. It's a great book. The other book is a little more detailed. It's a very famous book by John McPhee. It's called Assembling California, and that one is useful too. And the best thing about John McPhee's book is a paragraph in the first 2 or 3 pages. And I want to read from that because it's a central theme about why Lake County looks the way it does. So McPhee says, he says on this other page, remember about mountains, what they are made of is not what made them. With the exception of volcanoes, when mountains rise as a result of some tectonic force, they consist of what happens to be there. So Lake County in particular, and California in general, everything that we stand on, everything that we climb, everything that we slide down, comes from someplace else. And mainly, I'm proud to say, and confident to say, as an oceanographer, it comes from the Pacific Ocean. And as a young, small scientist, I spent years and years on a ship in the Pacific Ocean working for geologists. Because in the late 60s, geologists had the money, and they deserved it. They were unraveling how the world works. They were unraveling why the world looks the way it does through this marvelous theory called plate tectonics. The idea that the surface of the Earth consists of giant plates that crash into one another. And it is the most remarkable thing for me, a person who sells theory, germ theory, greenhouse theory, natural selection, that this is the easiest theory to sell to people in the United States. If you walk up to someone on the street and you say, you know, the surface of the Earth is composed of 12 giant plates and they crash into one another. And they look at you and they say, yeah, sure, that must be the way it is. So it's a great theory, it's readily acceptable, and most of the ideas about it were unraveled by looking in the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean. My job was to trail a magnetometer behind the ship and keep track of changes in magnetic patterns on the seafloor, which told how old the seafloor was and how quickly the plates were moving. If the equipment broke, I got to stop and do some biology. I got to tow for plankton, and I got to sample the benthos, which is what's on the bottom. So I got very good at breaking geological equipment and fixing it so that they would invite me back. But the central story of California is one of plates diving under the existing continent. And the existing continent 300 million years ago is now Nevada, and everything else has been added. So what I want to do is take you through 6 types of rocks very quickly. They're all rocks that you can see. They're all rocks that you may have had questions about if you had your eyes open on the roads. And the first one is our home. And it is right here. It's called the Franciscan Complex. And the Franciscan Complex is what I would call marine clutter. We live in clutter. It's old sediments dredged up from the sea bottom. And it came here around the Cretaceous when there was a trench formed by the Pacific Plate diving under the material that had already been accumulated here. So this is our home, the Franciscan Complex. Here is here. And the rocks, if you wish to see them, the Franciscan complex rocks, are kind of claystone or mudstone. And you could walk just a few feet away to Soda Bay Road, and you'd see this light chocolate-covered rocks along Soda Bay Road. Those are the Franciscan Formation. And they're marine. In an hour or so, we could find some fossils for you to prove it, some clams and whatnot. And the Cretaceous was the time of dinosaurs, but we wouldn't find any dinosaurs' bones because dinosaurs weren't very plentiful in the ocean. So we're looking at old ocean sediments, and that's where we live for the most part. And this formation is named after everybody's favorite city, which is San Francisco, which is named after everybody's favorite saint, which is St. Francis of Assisi. Those of you who are Xavier fans, I'm real sorry. It is St. Francis of Assisi. And so it's our home and we're used to it. Muddy sandstones from the Cretaceous. You got it? That's on the quiz. Okay. Muddy sandstones from the Cretaceous. All right. The next type of rock is the Coast Range ophiolite. We live in the Coast Range, and sliced in bits and pieces in between those sandstones are old sea bottom, the oceanic crust. Okay? If you look up this word ophiolite in the dictionary, it says the synonym is serpentine. And there's serpentine in there, but there's also a volcanic rock that's extruded underwater. It's called basalt. And basalt doesn't always come out underwater. Mount Canocti is mostly basalt. But this section did come out underwater in the Pacific, and it was crusted up and scraped off the plate at the same time as the San Franciscan Formation. So you get sediments mostly here, and then you get the sea bottom a little further east. And serpentine is something you know about if you're in Lake County and you know the history. Serpentine is the state of California's state rock. It is poisonous, and we are blessed with a great deal of it, which means that we are a botanical wonderland, because our soil in bits and pieces of Lake County is so rich in serpentine that the native plants still stand a chance against European invaders. All the oats and all the goose bear and all these weeds that you deal with in your garden, they're like most of you and I here. They're Europeans. But if you get to a spot where there's some serpentine, you'll see some real Californians. Californians millions of years old. The best example of serpentine is at 2 road cuts on the way to Middletown. You leave Hidden Valley behind you, and you're headed to Middletown. You see this gray, greasy, beautiful rock. That's serpentine. And aside, a little bit of biology, above that road cut is an endemic oak found nowhere else except in serpentine soil. It's a leather oak, and it's shorter than I am. Okay? So unique fauna and flora, and this unique rock, state rock of California. Coast Range ophiolite, and what is it? Sea bottom and metamorphic serpentine, and it came here and was developed around the Jurassic, heavy-duty dinosaur time. But no dinosaurs. Why? No, it's the bottom of the ocean. Okay, next rock formation is the Great Valley Sequence. This is quite a bit younger. Mostly as we move to the east in California, you get older and older. But the Great Valley Sequence is younger because it formed in an inland sea, a seaway that was formed on the basis of the Coast Range making an island arc off of the developing California. And the seaway, you see, and you can see that these are a little more sandy. They're not claystone or mudstone like the Franciscan Formation. There's more sand to it. So it's called the sandstone. There's some chert in there too. And I want you to remember traveling to Williams on Highway 20. Now, if you're traveling to Williams on Highway 20 and you have an 8-year-old kid in the back seat or in the front seat, that kid is going to say, wow, look at the sides of this canyon. It's corduroy. There are giant rock slabs all parallel to one another, the color of chocolate, and they're all tilted over to the east. This is remarkable. Now, if you have an 8-year-old in the back of your car and he doesn't say that, 1, he needs glasses, or 2, he needs counseling. Because any kid would notice that, any normal kid, okay? So that's the Great Valley sequence from a seaway, and it came and was developed during the Eocene, about 50 million years ago. It's younger. And it gave way to a giant marshland. With the advent of the Europeans, became the most productive agricultural, economic valley in the world. When I was